Welcome to the Court of the EDI Chester, and today we are going to take a look at the NHS once again with its nonsense and flummery. The NHS. Buy me a coffee, warrior teacher, YouTube, thanks, whatever it is, just do something to help. Subscribe to my Substack, right? Okay. This was a very interesting intro from a stalwart researcher on the tinterwebs, who, if you are not following, you need to follow, and you can donate to help this individual as well, at Stilltish. Do follow at Stilltish, one of the greatest of the researchers in the field in which we find ourselves embroiled. That's not right, is it a field? How can you be embroiled in a field? In the battle in which we find ourselves embroiled, in the field in which we find ourselves playing. Okay, so go and follow at Stilltish. All the links are in the doobers for you on this one. It's about your NHS. Your NHS is the actual title of the blog, which is cracking, and it's in regards to the NHS Confederation, which were the lunatics that brought out that guidance that was completely insane. Just very quickly, it won't take long. It's a short one today, folks, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. This is on the bonkers NHS guidance that will no doubt be deleted at some point. So here is a copy for posterity. I love her. Stish, we love you. Before I delve into the content, I want to revisit Matthew Taylor, the head of the NHS Confederation. So this is somebody who's behind all this. There's another spider behind all this. We'll come to that in a minute. The head of the NHS Confederation, in his wisdom, decided to listen to an extremist trans lobby group. So the head of the NHS Confederation, an extreme trans lobby group, in the news recently for attacking the only charity for lesbian, gays and bisexuals, which defends their right to be protected on the basis of their sexual orientation. So that's LGBT Alliance that Tish is talking about there. This guy decided to listen to an extremist trans lobby, which are the lobby that's going after LGBT Alliance, their charity status, but also goes after other people and in some ways. And the LGBT Foundation, who we need a much closer look at, if somebody wants to have a look, a much closer look at. Tendrils everywhere. The LGBT Foundation joined with the charity Mermaids to try to strip LGBT Alliance of its charity status. You may recall this. Okay? We have not yet had the outcome of that case. That's surreal in itself. Where the hell is it? But in the intervening time, Mermaids has been put under investigation by the Charities Commission. Still, Tish continues, it turns out I have written about Matthew Taylor before, when he appeared on The Moral Maze, when he was CEO of the Royal Society for the Arts. When you come down to it, the humanities, arts, social sciences, they're screwed, aren't they? Absolutely screwed by this. Really, they've let them in, and they've been completely parasitised. Tish then describes her interaction with this Matthew Taylor, the head of the NHS Confederation, that released these ridiculous guidelines about single-sex spaces in hospitals. Nut job, right, in my book. Tish is far too nice to say such a thing. She does it with far better words than I. I think he's a nutter. She says he was a supercilious, arrogant man on that show. I said it at the time. It was a worry that he had moved on to the NHS. I decided to revisit his contribution on The Moral Maze before writing about the guidance that's come out. In the introduction, Michael Burke lays out the issue pretty well. This is The Moral Maze, yeah? The making of female changing rooms, even open ones, mixed sex, and introduction of trans issues to children via schools, the skyrocketing referrals to gender clinics and concern about medicalisation of children. He also lays out the implication for rape crisis and domestic abuse refuges and single-sex wards. This was when self-identified gender was still on the cards. Of course, it's not anymore. We hope. After this introduction, what does Mr. Taylor have to say? Right out of the starter gate, he shows no empathy for women at all. I must admit I've avoided this issue. It feels like wandering into a minefield wearing a blindfold. If I'm to find a position to start from, it is that, as far as possible, we should trust people to make the right choices, to make the choices that feel right for them. For the love of God. You know, this is man as an island. Do what you want. Nobody cares. Yep, you can shout outside number 10 and wipe your bum on the railings. Do what you fancy. This is from this guy. He listened in silence to Jane Fay, John Ozimak, who told barefaced lies about puberty blockers. Ozimak is a defender of extreme porn. He also had no questions for James Caspian, who raised medical ethic and detransitioner. Furthermore, he remained silent during Stephen Whittle's testimony. After sitting in silence while Stephen Whittle claimed he did not want to reorganise society to accommodate her, he decided to lob this question at the next speaker, Heather Brunskill Evans, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. Me, not Tish. I think Tish has as well, but, an intervention best suited to the arguments of Fay and Whittle, who are extreme trans rights activists. I wonder, he said to Heather Brunskill Evans, that in responding to human suffering, you need to deal with the world as it is and not how you would wish it to be. It's the kind of fait accompli these stupid people say. They think it's a fait accompli, a coup de grace, if you will. He continues with his illustration his lack of grasp on feminist thought and alignment with trans ideologues. Women want to liberate women from sexist stereotypes, but Matthew thinks they are innate. Proponents of gender identity ideology think if you don't align with the stereotypes associated with your sex, you can carve them into and out of your own flesh. Modern feminism has made great progress, he continues, both for women and men, but still most women choose generally to be feminine and most men generally choose to be masculine, and it is choice now, it's not just social norms, it is a choice. It's almost like he's saying the quiet bit out loud, isn't he? Heather comments that these choices are in the context of social norms. Here we get to the crux of his argument. Matthew thinks that women are still choosing to be feminine, demonstrating that he believes in these regressive, sexist stereotypes. Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Tish. And because he believes this, he thinks boys, girls are at odds with their expectations for their sex, should be able to modify their body to conform. Children don't conform to the sex stereotypes in the mind of these TQ plus nutters. Let's cut them up. Let's cut them up. This is serious stuff, I know. Beyond belief. It is more of a choice now, he says. In a world that the fact that somebody feels that their gender identity and their body are not aligned, shouldn't they be free to align their gender with their identity? What he means, shouldn't they be free to mutilate their body, to do so on the public purse in the UK, and then to be a patient on the public purse for the rest of their life, just because they believe in gender identity ideology? No, they shouldn't be able to do it. No more so than we believe in people who believe in, that we give any time to people who believe in Cartesian dualism, the idea of the body-soul container relationship, which is exactly what gender identity is, Cartesian dualism. This was his final position. I wondered if this is what got him the job as head of the NHS Confederation. He then says, another time I think, my attitude has hardened because I believe the critics of the trans movement systematically understate the processes you have to go through, the discussion you have to go through, and they tend to conflate discussion about your identity with decisions to change sex. They exaggerate how big the threats are, and they exaggerate the practical difficulties. What he's saying there is, it's okay folks, there's nothing to see. It's all right, no, that's not a bleeding child. It's okay. Right? It's not a bleeding adolescent. It's not a young person in their 20s who's so damaged that they're unable to carry out their life and their functions properly. Oh, and by the way, they're sterile, they'll never experience an orgasm. But don't look. It's okay, folks. There's nothing to see. That's how these people are. Right? He clearly attached more weight to the testimony of Fay, who's a trans right loon, who was disingenuous in the extreme about puberty blockers, and Whittle, who denied that he is trying to force the work to be recognised to enable her dissociation from her sex. You can listen to the interview on the Moral Maze. Tish has kindly provided us with a link to do so. Okay? I would be very interested to know how this sociology graduate with a master's in industrial relations came to be regarded as a suitable candidate for the role in NHS Confederation. Another senior employee has pronouns in his bios. These nutters, see? Most shocking of all, they have an ex-Mermaids employee working for them. Metastasise, folks. Next up, says Tish, I will deep dive into the guidance, which in my view should result in senior people losing their posts. I'm with Tish on this. Start firing these fucks. You can support my work, says Tish, by taking out a paid Substack. Go do it. Go give Tish a lift as well. You lift me, lift Tish. Okay? So, yeah, go and spend some money on both of us. What's wrong with you? This is a great piece. It's a good introduction to understanding how these ideologues have captured many organisations. Another one, as we've seen with the humanist organisation, with every other universities, schools, what's going on, that the eventual aim is the total and utter capitulation to this cult. Now they've started saying the quiet bit out loud. They're not even hiding it anymore. Go and have a look. Tish, thank you very much. You go have a great day. See you soon.